Alright, we're going to do a skin retouch here, and we're going to improve the color of the skin. We're going to add some makeup in after. We're going to really enhance the look of this image and make it a quicker skin retouch than maybe you're used to. So what we're going to do is the first thing we want to do is we want to create a layer group. So we're going to create that layer group, and we're going to call it skin retouch. Again, we're always naming our layer so we know what we're doing. And you should have another layer group that's called eye retouch that you've already worked on. So what we're going to do is skin retouch. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to open up our swatches palette. And if you don't see all these colors right here, what you really want to do is you want to go to large list to be able to see exactly what colors we're talking about. And what we want to do is we want to even out the skin tone, and we're going to paint a new skin tone in. And we're going to blend it in. It's going to look exaggerated when we first do it. We're going to add a lot of texture into it later, and we're going to make it look natural, but just trust me for now. What we're going to do is we are going to pick a color that we think will look good on the subject. And I think the skin tone very light will work well with her. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to create a adjustments layer, and I'm going to go to solid color, and I'm going to pick this skin tone very light right here. Okay, so now we filled with that color, and we want to change the blending mode to hue. Now of course this is going to look a little wacky right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint in that color onto the skin tone. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the layer mask. We're going to fill it with black so we can block everything out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to paint this in. It's going to look exaggerated again, but we can change the opacity to change that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do it very quickly, but it'll just give you an idea of what we're going to do here. So I'm going to paint in this skin tone right over top of our other skin tone to be able to warm up the image, but also to even out the skin tone. So give me a second and I'll just quickly go over this. And I know it looks extremely exaggerated right now. And again, you're going to want to take a lot more care and time involved in this. Okay, so now to make it a little bit more realistic, just for now, and we're going to tweak all this later. But for now, I'm going to change the opacity and bring it down to something that's a little bit more realistic. So we'll look at it on and off here. That's not bad. Maybe 40%, 45, let me see. Yeah, I'm going to go with that, okay, 47%. Just do it so that it's visible to the eye, that it looks appealing. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a retouch layer. We're going to just want to get rid of the big problem areas on this one. This is not going to be a tedious retouch with the healing brush, okay? We're going to do a shortcut way of doing this, but for right now, we got to get rid of the big stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a blank layer here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get our healing brush. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are sampling the current layer and below, and that we're aligning the sample. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to zoom in really close to some of the problem areas. And again, I'm not going to get them all. I'm just going to get a few of them right here. Every subject will have more and more of these to do, but she has pretty good skin. I mean, she's a little kid, so there's not a lot to do here. But again, we'd go through the mouth and we'd go through a lot of this, and we would create and get rid of the big stuff right here. But again, let's just assume that we've got rid of a lot of the imperfections here. Okay, now the next thing we're going to want to do is this is our cheat right here. Our cheat is going to be create a surface blur of the skin, and then add the texture back into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a merge at the top of the stack. Okay. Let me change the names of these. Let me name these things. Skin color. Major retouch. This one's going to be surface blur. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and blur this image, okay, to create a more appealing looking skin. So we're going to go to surface blur. Now, of course, this is way too blurry. We're going to choose something lower. But again, no matter what we kind of choose, we're going to tweak it with the opacity layer. Well, we're going to bring this down. Okay, we're going to probably bring it down to probably around 7. 10 to 7. Let's just see what that looks like. That's not bad right there. Okay, let's just run that right now. Depending on the speed of your computer, this will go faster or slower depending on what processor you have. Filters are very processor intensive. They tend to run a lot quicker on faster processors with more cores. Okay, now we're going to tweak this by changing the opacity here so it looks a little bit better. And we're going to get it looking much better. Okay, that's not bad. What is that? 37%. Okay, so let me just turn that on and off, see what it looks like. Yeah, the skin is much smoother now. Now, of course, it looks plastic, and the one reason it looks plastic is you can't see any texture below it. And that's really the secret to this, is being able to see the texture, having a nice skin tone with a lot of texture in it without seeing a lot of imperfections. So what we're going to do is we're going to now paint the surface blur in there, just like we do anything else. Okay, so we're going to add a layer mask. Now, of course, because I'm adding it now, I'm going to add one that's going to be black already by hitting the the Option key and adding a black, adding a black mask right here to it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the skin tone, and I'm going to paint with white, of course, and I'm going to paint the blur here. And again, you're going to want to be a lot more careful on this than I am. Okay, so what we've done is we've painted the surface blur onto the image. Okay, I might even want to increase this a little bit now that I see it with the layer mask. Okay, now of course we don't have the texture, and the texture is what we really need. And this is an interesting trick that was showed to me by this Calvi training video that I watched. So we're going to merge the layer at the top. And we're going to add in texture because the skin pores and texture are different on different parts of the face. We're going to add in the skin texture on the forehead separate from the rest of it. So I'm going to call this one forehead texture. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Filter, and I'm going to go to the Filter Gallery. And I'm going to go to Texture. And what I'm going to do is right here where it says the types of texture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load a texture. Okay, so what I can do is I can go to here and hit Load Texture. And where you're going to find that texture is in the Retouching Kit. Under Textures, it's called DCS Skin Texture. And what it is it's a retouch of some skin tone that's perfect, and it's sampled. So you're actually adding in real skin tone texture to the image. So let's load that. Okay, and we can see that there is texture now in the skin. It's going to look different on your monitor, especially the compression of the video on YouTube. It's not going to look as clean, but what you can do is you can change the scaling and the relief or the size of it. For the forehead, it looks best if it's coming from the top, the light. Okay, and we'll just change, we can change these numbers when we're in the opacity section, but we'll bring it down a little bit. And I'll just see what it looks like here. This changes the pore size if we bring the relief up higher, but it looks pretty good right there. Not so bad. All right, so I'm going to go with that. Depending on the size of your image, depending on the type of image you have, your numbers will be different than mine. Okay, but again, just so that it's visually appealing. Now, we've got the texture on the forehead. Okay, well, it's on the whole face, but what we want to do is we want to just keep it on the forehead right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the layer mask. And then what I'm going to do is hide everything. Again, I could have just clicked on the layer mask by holding down the Option key, but we'll, oops, sorry about that. We've got to choose the layer mask that we want to fill there. Okay, and once we have the layer mask filled with black, what we're going to do is we're going to paint in that texture again. So we're going to use our brush, and we're going to paint that texture into the forehead. So hopefully you can see this on your screen, but you'll get the idea when you start doing it yourself. But it does a nice job of adding in really realistic skin textures. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do that again, but we're going to do it for the rest of the face. Okay, so we're going to merge the layer again. Okay, and this time what we're going to do is we're going to go filter again. We're going to do the filter gallery. We're going to load the DSC skin texture. This time instead of top, we're going to do it from the right. Okay, that seems to work best for the rest of the face. And we'll keep the numbers the same. Alright, so now what we've done is we've got it loaded in for the face. So what we'll do is we'll create that layer mask again, fill it with black, and then what we're going to do is we're going to paint this into the face. Now you're going to want to go a lot more carefully than I am here.